Once in a Lifetime just had big anticipation for that single. What was it like to kind of put that single out and see the fans' response?
It's crazy because like we recorded the song maybe November, finished the song maybe about November, early November. We finished the song, and it takes about 2 months, 3 months to have a song pressed, so there's that whole waiting period.
Yeah,
there's that whole waiting period of like, the song's done, it's in the pressing, you're just waiting. We got the test press, we all went to the studio, we played on the record player, we're listening back to it, we're all stoked on it, and then there's another waiting period for it to arrive, you know what I mean? But just the way it kind of came and went, you know what I mean? Like, I remember looking at the record and be like, all right, let's see how we're gonna get rid of these records, you know what I mean? And we ended up using Bandcamp as an outlet. It's kind of like one of the more favorite outlets for a lot of the record collectors right now and for fans. And I remember I called Tony and I said, look, I'm testing out, the whole transaction between like, the buying and selling and seeing how it looks. This is the first time we're selling a record on Bandcamp. And so I had just kind of put it on the link on the bio, And so this is like probably like 11:30 and we hadn't even announced that what time we're gonna like really like it's a sales on, okay, the sales are going, you know what I mean? So I'm actually on the phone with Tony and we're talking and I was like, all right, what time should we announce this thing? And it's already like up live on the Bandcamp, we just haven't announced it. And so he's like, I don't know what time's a good time. We're talking back and forth. And then my phone starts going off. And I'm just like, oh man, someone just bought the record. It's like, oh shit, all right, cool, whatever. And then we're still talking a little more. And then my phone just starts buzzing, you know what I mean? And people are already like chiming in, like buying this record. And we haven't even announced it yet. So Tony's like, just, let it ride, man. Let's go. Let's let it go, So pretty much at midnight, it was like before midnight, it was already live. And so by the time, I went to sleep like around 1 o'clock, just from trying to get to bed, like we already had sold, a good 50 records or something like that. Go to sleep, wake up at 7:30. We already went through like half the records, this is at 7:30 in the morning, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking like, days before I'm looking at this record, I'm thinking like, man, I hope we get rid of these records. You know what I mean? I hope we do well, what we're going to do. And like, just the responses was insane. From a new band, new label, new singer. It was something like really like uplifting for all of us. That's why we're all stoked on it. Just to see that people were ready and people wanted it and there was a demand for it. So it just shows, like, and just to even touch on like just the love that we get from the community, from this kind of music. Me and Tony from the first record with Sola, me and him actually went and like drove and hand delivered a lot of these records in Los Angeles. And I remember we went to like a spot like in LA, someone's house, and like she came out, we're kind of jiving with the fans, you know what I mean? It was kind of cool because we got to like hand deliver the record, we met with this one guy who bought a couple records and we're eating carne asada with him, having a beer, and went to someone else's house. And then like there's a young girl there, like she bought a record and we're like, hey, you're gonna play this record tonight? We're talking to her a little bit. It's like, oh, I don't even have a record player. And we're like, so you just bought the record, you don't have a record player? She's like, no, yeah, I just want like a piece like of the band, like something physical, you know what I mean? And it just dawned on me and Tony, like, it's like, it's just crazy, this community, that they want something like, just something like physical from the band, something like that they can touch, you know what I mean, and hold, and not something you can get like an MP3 or play off of Spotify. They wanted something like they can hold in their hand and say, this is the Illusions, you know what I mean? So like from that moment on, I think me and Tony and the whole band were just in love with putting out something that's physical, that people can hold and put in their shelf and put on their record player, and it can have a moment and experience with the record, you know what I mean? That you couldn't really get with like playing off of Spotify or an MP3 or anything. I mean, that's great too. I'm not knocking that at all, but I'm just saying just the whole fact of like having something physical. And it just goes back to like something very old school, like what they had in the 60s and the 70s, and been able to have something on a shelf that you can pull off on a special occasion, you know. But yeah, the response to the whole record was amazing. I think we really didn't expect it, you know. We just thought, you know, we hope it does well, and just to see by 12 noon the next day it was sold out, and there was still like messages coming in like, hey, is there records, is there repress, like what stores have it, and it was like just fun for all of us, you know what I mean? Shipping out records, a big order to Japan, and shipping out records to Indonesia, the UK, all over the US, and just being like, wow, like people responded in such a like amazing way. I don't think any of us expected that.
Yeah.
You know?
And what's crazy too is, you know, Eric and I, you know, we've toured all over, you know, Europe, all over the US, all over, you know, even up to Canada and Mexico. And all these people that are hitting us up from all over the world aren't even the fans that we made doing those previous tours. These are all new people that we haven't even met before, you know. And so that really blew our minds. And even going back to, you know, us hand delivering the records, we felt it was a really important thing to make that connection with the fans, you know, to make that connection with people that, you know, all they see us is on a screen, you know. Like, we feel it's really important to connect with people like that, and that's why we enjoyed going out and delivering these things to people, because that connection was truly an important thing to us.
First off, I mean, I'm a fan, right? But if you guys showed up to my door and dropped off the 45, I would be like, hell yeah, you know? That's so awesome. That's like the awesomeness, you know? Like, there's so many fans out there that I have just been seeing, like, you know, yourself, your guys' group, and other groups, like, it's just flying off the shelves. And like you guys have mentioned, you know, people want a piece of the band, which I think that's really important, because that's something that we had growing up, right? We would go to Tower Records, we'd buy that CD,
Right.
You know, we'd get that poster, right? I would go to record stores and ask, you know, strangle the guy at the counter, like, hey, give me that poster, you know, that once in a lifetime poster that they would put out, you know? So I think that's what people really love, and they want a piece of the band. And I think overall what that's saying is that they just really appreciate what you guys are doing and know that this is going to go somewhere. So when you guys see that love coming back, I mean, does this get you guys back in the studio and like, hey, we need to produce more, we need to make like an LP now?
Definitely. And playing off of that, it's just like right now with the whole pandemic that's happening, like, we're used to playing a show, getting off stage, like being by the merch, and like physically giving these records out to people and selling these records out to people, the shirts, and having like an experience and an interaction. So like it's a crazy time for a musician. Like, all of us are very disconnected from our audience, and now we have to play on screens like today, or like, and have this kind of like interaction where the audience can still get to know us, you know, because when the audience is watching us on stage, they're experiencing us like firsthand, you know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest challenge right now. So I think it was a pleasure for us to like hand deliver these records, you know what I mean? Like, and talk with these people and meet with these people, because that's the type of interaction we would have had, you know? When me and Tony were touring in Europe and like signing records like on the road, you know what I mean? And like all over the US, and like talking to people, and like, you know, people showing up to the show and maybe not even knowing who you are, but loving the band and like buying the record just because they liked the experience that they had, and trying to like translate that experience now with everything that's happening with the pandemic. It's like, it's been a challenge, but we've been finding ways of making it work, you know?
I think everything that we've been putting out and releasing, and, you know, for lack of better words, the success that we've had has all been during this pandemic. You know, our first record was released during the pandemic.
Right.
The recordings and all that happened during the pandemic, and it became our silver lining during these times that, you know, that aren't so good for, you know, everybody, including ourselves, you know. And we were able to have this outlet to, you know, still put out this music. We still had that desire and that drive, and I don't think anything was going to stop us from, you know, from continuing this passion that we have.
Yeah, and what I feel like what's happening just, in your genre, and then also just for musicians in general, there's in DJs, we DJ, and I'm usually like in the club, or we're doing events and things like that. So I feel like there's like this big avalanche that's like kind of like building, it's just building and building and building. And then once you guys can get back in the clubs and, go do your tours, I think there's just going to be a big amount of love, like, for you guys, because you're kind of doing like the groundwork, like with the singles coming out, and you got like, you guys are building like that foundation behind the scenes. But once it comes out, like, and you guys are on stage and people are going to see that product that's just been really polished, you know what I mean? So I think it's kind of been like a blessing in disguise, although it sucks. And, a lot of people are suffering out there. But I feel like, there's again, a silver lining at the end where you guys are going to definitely be on tour one day. And a lot of people will be like, hey, you know what? I actually got a chance to sit down and listen to your stuff. I actually got a chance to meet you guys because you guys came to my house and dropped off the record, and now I'm here to support. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's just a big avalanche of just fans and, support through the community.
It's gonna be what it was in the 20s, the Roaring 20s. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's 100 years later,
right.
And we can say that we're gonna go through. I feel like we're gonna go through the same experience where it's just like once things are kind of back to normal, it's gonna be explosion. You know what I mean? It's gonna be a massive explosion. And like I feel like touching on what you said, having this moment that we can't actually be out there performing has put everyone back in the studio. You know what I mean? Right. We're all like now writing, let's record, let's put out music. And like as a band that's performing and touring and stuff, sometimes it takes away from being in the studio, in the songwriting process. And if anything, it's allowed all of us to grow in that way, so everyone putting out music is like we're still trying to push out new music for people, and people are responsive to that.
I'd like to tell you a little story about a boy and a girl who fell in love. And like any other love, they fell so deep. But as time passed them by, that love seemed to fade away. So here I am to tell you about his story, about his pain. Talking about cold days and rainy nights, this burning pain I feel inside. The day you walked away left tears in my eyes, yeah. Why'd you have to go? I'm begging, please come back home. Don't you leave me right here, 'cause I'm trembling, I'm shaking, I can't hold on. You will never find love like mine. This pain I feel inside. My pretty angel baby, tell me, what do I have to do to get back your attention, darling?